Thank you, Katya. It's an honor to be here today. Thank you, Robert, and thank you, the ambassadors and all the dignitaries. It's a true honor to be here as an Orthodox Jew, being able to be so influential in being able to forge public policy and build bridges between communities and countries, using commerce as a uniter. What's crucial to be able to have a vehicle other than politics that unites people. I want to give a special shout out to Rose, who came, the trade minister from Bahrain. She was stuck all day in the airport yesterday in Florida, texting me the flights were canceled. She got the 11 o'clock flight. It means a lot to have different diversity over here. Thank you. I just want to share a story that's going on right now as we speak to show you the strength of unity and commerce, how we were able to stand in a place where others couldn't. There was an Orthodox Jew who was murdered 3 weeks ago in Turkey. He was a photographer, and there was a lot of red tape to bring his body back home through the Turkish government that we have close relationships with through commerce. Matter of fact, we introduced the Turkish government with the Pakistani Consul General, and last week I facilitated a signing in the Embassy of Pakistan in New York City, and they publicly thanked the Jewish Chamber of Commerce for making that relationship. Through that relationship, Saturday night, I got a call that this Jewish body from a Jew who was murdered is stuck in Turkey, and there's no way to get him out. Then we had to navigate the State Department to be able to issue the papers, and at the same time work with the Turkish government to release the body, because they kept it and the family didn't know where it was, and there was investigation, it was a murder. And thank God we facilitated. I called up Christopher Landau. I just spoke to him today in the morning to send him the information that the body arrived last night. The State Department got involved. The Deputy Secretary of State and said, Duvi, it was on a Sunday. I'm going to expedite the paperwork right away. On the Turkish side, we worked with the Turkish government, from the President's office. We worked with the morgues and with the funeral homes, the prosecutor's office. And within a few days, we were able to release that body. And we all know that, from a political perspective, Israel and Turkey, have their internal conflicts. But through our business relationships, we were able to facilitate, and the funeral is going to be 9 o'clock today, being held in Queens. So that was something we accomplished through building bridges, through commerce. And that's a small example of what's going on right now as we speak, of achievements that no one else was able to achieve. And that's what we're here today. Katya, I met her when Zelensky became president, and I flew to Ukraine right away to advocate for the Jewish community. I met Zelensky, me and Katya worked closely together, and also Uriel, who has the paper, the Ukrainian big paper, also is here now, settled over here. And we built a network with President Zelensky to fight hate and to arrest those people who were corrupt and really stealing from the Jewish community and blackmailing them. And it was successful, and they made the first arrest in 30 years because of us. So that's a little of what we're sharing over here. Regarding peace, and before I make the prayer, I wanted to explain that there's a scientific approach to really peace, because when you will hear Robert is very familiar with that in Israel and everything, that politicians have their agendas and they'll put the people's interest aside just to push their agenda. And one of the things I want to reflect, what I'm very active in the UN also, is something that we really have to wake up. As we heard, everyone speak about how Ukraine is being pushed to the water. They have to fight. They have no choice. I just chaired the Korean government's expo in Atlanta. I work closely with Korea. I was in Korea 3 weeks ago, hosted by the government, and And at the same time, Korea also, they have the biggest threat on their border, similar to what we have in Israel, that in one day they could come in North Korea and make October 7th on the border. However, and this is something I'm voicing, I have spoken to this to the state of Israel in the highest levels, I'm not going to mention names, the inner frustration of the votes in the UN. If we really align and believe that Ukraine is in the same position, and they put themselves in the same position that they don't have another choice, and they keep on saying we're like Israel, and then we have Korea, who co-sponsored the bill to make a ceasefire during the height of October 7th. I was by the press conference from the Korean government. They asked me to speak because I'm lobbying for them for different things to help them, and we're going to be honoring Thursday. We're hosting World Trade Week on behalf of the United States of America, New York City. We're going to have all the different governments. We're honoring Korean ear. But I used the opportunity to call out the media and say that it's my obligation to speak up and call a spade a spade. We're here to support Korea, but at the same time, if any country should understand the challenges what Israel faces on its border of October 7th, that could happen to them is Korea. How could they go and be a co-sponsor, from the first co-sponsors to call for a ceasefire? But they want someone to do it to them. They understand the danger. And we have the same thing with Ukraine. They understand the challenges. Unfortunately, if you're going to go look at the UN votes, it's really, really, really very, very, very disturbing, because Ukraine and Korea, who are aligning with the threats of Israel and use Israel as an example, vote time and time against Israel. Why? Because of peer pressure. So we have to call out this peer pressure, and we have to align. When we align our goals, we will be successful. I just put an op-ed out yesterday in the Israel National News, Naot Sheva, and I wrote concerns about what's going on now with Donald Trump. The president went to Arab nations, to the Gulf, and God willing, he should be successful in building a network. But Saudi Arabia, Qatar, all the countries he went to unite, all those countries harbored terrorism, support Hamas. At the same time, Saudi Arabia was behind 9/11. And to be able to build a network that could turn into a monster if, once we empower them and have America rely on their financial stability, their finances, puts us in a very uneasy position. Meaning to say that, let's say, God forbid, the next administration is not as strong as Trump, and they don't have the language like we've seen before in the Biden administration and the relationship. They'll say, you know what, we're going to go side with China and Russia now. And we just built an animal of a monster of countries who didn't get along in the Gulf, united them, dependent on them, then they have no human rights. They have zero human rights with the values of the West, and we have no leverage over them. We are creating another UN that we created when Israel was established to protect Israel. That's the number one enemy for the state of Israel. This could be the number one enemy for America and for the Western world. So in my op-ed, I said everything's beautiful and nice, but does the United States have an exit strategy if this group that we built turns into a monster and they control us financially and they gather together as united when we build them and empower them to be able to take the ears out of the tires? And I sent that message to the people all the way on the top of the administration, and I said, our community, the Jewish community, and the Western community, were concerned about what the exit strategy is, because we don't want to build another monster that's going to hurt us. So I applaud the president and I bless him for what he's doing, but at the same time, we have to have a plan B, and it hasn't worked in the past. The UN is a monster. The International Criminal Court is a monster. They come against the Western values. They come against Israel. They come against everything. And we are creating right now, the president built the network, but I'm very afraid of really where it's going to go, because we don't know who's going to be sitting tomorrow in the chair. And Donald Trump has a unique personality where people do feel like intimidated from, but it's very unusual for anyone to get up as strong as him. So having said that, I wanted to point out that peace has a lot to do with psychology. It has a lot to do with us keeping our grounds, staying grounded, not getting excited from a plane from Qatar on what I don't think anyone agrees. As much as we love Donald Trump and we're here and we support him, yeah, I would also be excited. It's very flashy, it is exciting. I'm not going to deny that it's tempting. But at the same time, that is the number one bribery, and it's something that we have to draw a line. And we have to create an outline. And I heard my close friend Mark Levin speak yesterday on Fox News, and he said we have to create guidelines right now of where we're going with this process, because right now we embrace, those groups and empowering those who support terror and Hamas and Iran in the world. So it's very concerning looking at the future of how we're trying to embrace and build peace, because is it just on hope that it's going to work? I can tell you right now that when one of those countries where Trump is now, who signed the paper, is the paper's not worth the ink they signed on. And we all know it. And they can go tomorrow and stand with Russia and China and Iran, and we're going to be in cahoots, as our friend over here, Ambassador, said, that as it is the alliance with North Korea and Iran is so scary. Imagine if we give them all the Muslim and the countries who don't have human rights values. And it's very scary. So we have to really pray for peace. And we have to pray also, in Yiddish they say, for seykhl. Seykhl is common sense. Common sense means that when we advocate to our politicians, we have to demand an exit strategy. When they go to vote in the UN, including Ukraine, yes, the Israeli government, we demand that if you're comparing yourselves to us, we are very hurt when you vote against us. Yes, same thing for Korea. And when I brought it up to Korea, and I don't know if you watched on TV, but you saw the next time there was a vote in the UN, the Korean ambassador started crying about October 7th victims after I brought it to their attention. And it's just communication. So we have to stand strong, we have to focus, and that's the way we'll be able to build a healthier future. And I urge everyone in this room to go to our politicians and ask them, what is the administration's exit strategy? Because we positioned ourselves now for the future in a very dangerous position, even though we have the best hopes. Look, yesterday in the news, the vice president was supposed to go to Israel. It was all over the news. Today he was canceled because he's afraid of Hamas. Who's pushing the buttons? All over the news. The vice president of Israel was supposed to go to Israel. How many times you can humiliate Israel that Trump was supposed to come in the meeting and he didn't go? Then you have the vice president's going to go, and because of Hamas, he didn't go. Anyhow, I'm going to finish with this. I'm happy to say that we're here, and Kat can tell you, and Robert can tell you, we're all about action. I'm going to be leading a mission, the first mission, the most powerful mission ever in the history of the State of Israel, of media influencers to be able to create and share the story. My partner is Chris Rudy, Newsmax. June 29th to October 3rd, we're going to have a mission of the top 70 biggest radio TV influencers ever, Christians, and I'm leading it. I got the State of Israel to sponsor it, and they're very excited. And we are going to even have my close friend Mike Huckabee push off the embassy party to the next week, the comedy that's for this week, who's going to be with us by the event. So each person coming to this delegation is going to be receiving an invitation from the State of Israel as a guest. And the first thing is awareness, because without awareness, you don't understand that Israel is smaller than New Jersey. Ukraine is much bigger. North Korea is much bigger. We have nowhere to go over there. I was on the phone yesterday, 2 days ago, with the foreign minister of the state of Israel, who was in the middle of preparing the mission. And he says, Duvi, his chief of staff says, Duvi, I 10 minutes, I'll call you back, because we had to run in Israel, the foreign ministry, we had to run into the bunker because the Houthis were sending missiles. And this is from the Knesset. So there's nowhere to hide. So again, peace, yes. Approaches for peace, yes. But we have to work together. We can't just say we support, we're like Israel, but at the same time vote against them in the UN and call for them and to call for them to have a ceasefire when they don't have where to go. And we all know what Hamas says, what they can do again and again. So if God didn't protect us, no one protects us. And I'm going to finish with this. In the history of the world, no one could show that we had hundreds of ballistic missiles sent to us from Iran without one Jewish casualty and not one getting through. The Americans failed by 75%. Google it. 75%. All the big shot missiles didn't work to intercept. Okay? It was God who protects the state of Israel, and we have to pray over here that God should protect us and God should guide President Trump. It says that God laid malachim b'yad Hashem. The hearts of the kings on the hands of God. We have to pray that God gives the right thoughts and the right judgment to our president and be able to help guide us, because we all know his heart's in the right place, but he's not going to live forever, and we don't know who's going to take over. And the UN is a perfect example of where things could go south. And today, with technology and with the world and with all these things going on, any part of the world, India and Pakistan, right? Thursday, I'm hosting an event in Washington in World Trade. I'm going to have India and Pakistan in the same room, and we work together. I don't know if anyone else could tell you that. We're going to have Turkey and Israel in the same room on Thursday in New York City. And you know what? I'm proud of it, because we all use commerce and we don't focus on politics. We bring them together. So my ask before I say the prayer is that we should be able to, God should open our minds and make us be realistic and be able to be self-independent and own up to what we say and do the right votes in the UN, because right now the UN is the number one instigator for, literally, they supported October 7th. Their facilities were used for October 7th. They hide the Hezbollah behind them. They hide Hamas behind them. They use their bags. They use their buildings. And no one says anything, and never happened. So Israel really has nowhere to go. And commerce is a uniter. We're able to focus. We have something that we can work on to build bridges and bring people together. And with that, I'm going to say my prayer. And of course, yesterday was a beautiful thing. We saw the whole United States unite. Unfortunately, the previous president, Biden, was diagnosed with cancer. And we saw the country come together, unfortunately, for a bad cause that we're all concerned about, because we all care about our leaders. And that President Trump, the Speaker of the House, Democrats, Republicans, all stood up, and we're all praying for Biden's, health. And it was beautiful to see how people could unite, and that's what we need today. We need to stop putting our political interests first and focus on the people's needs. It says, "Gam ki elech b'geit salmoves lo yirara ki ata imodi." That says in Psalms. Even when I go in the shadow of death, lo yirara, nothing bad is going to happen to me, ki ata imodi, because the Creator is with me. So I'm going to say one prayer and hope that we all are able to be protected when we go in the shadow of death, and we're able to know that God's protecting us, but we're going to do ours to be able to be in touch. Shir Lamalois Asoinai El Hehorim Me'ayin Yovoi Ezri Ezri Me'im Adinoi Oisei Shamayim V'Oretz Al yitain lamoit raglecha, al yanum shemrecha. Hinei lo yanum v'lo yishon shomei Yisrael. Adinoi shemrecha, Adinoi tzilcha al yad yiminecha. Yomam hashemesh lo yakeka v'yoreach balayla. Adinoi yishmorcha mikol ra, yishmor es nafshecha. Adinoi yishmor tzeischa uveyecha, me'ata v'ad olam. Thank you.